Hi guys, my name is Maram and this is a very short video about how to survive semester 2, basic tips and tricks on what to do during semester 2 to make sure that you're going to be acing it. First of all, disclaimer that this video is mostly tailored towards UMST students specifically, so some information might not be as accurate for other universities. So basically in semester 2 there are a few very important subjects or major subjects which are anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. These are your three majors, so they're the most important of the subjects. The other subjects are less important, so I'm not going to be talking about them, and they're a bit easier as well. Inside anatomy, you'll find histology and embryology, so I'm going to be talking about them as well. So the general tips for first year is that one of the best things you can do is to discover your learning style or your study style. So try out different study methods, try out different things, because that's the best time for you to experiment without it having big consequences. In second year, you'd be under so much stress, you're not going to be able to rediscover your learning style. So start now, start early, find out how do you learn best. And I can make another video on like what learning styles there are and how to discover yourself when it comes to that. Another thing is that you need to start studying early, like really early. The earlier you start, the better it is. Semester 2 is generally easier than semesters 3 and 4, and the marks from semester 2 do add up into the next semesters, and they do help you a lot next semester. So if you got good marks in semester 2, it would make it much easier for you in semester 3 and semester 4. So it's really good to build the building blocks for your career or your like academics. I'll start with anatomy. So anatomy is basically about studying structures. So you need to have pictures or models. Reading it in theory is not going to help you at all. So you need to have an atlas, and the atlas helps you with like pictures, or you can get models. There are models available in the library if you want to go there and use them, or you can use practical, like actual people, so cadavers, okay? Anatomy depends mostly on your imagination, so you need to be able to imagine these things. So again, the more visual you get, the better it is. In your first few lectures, they're going to teach you about anatomical positions. This is very important because it helps you in the future be able to like describe different structures in the perfect way. So how do you study it? Mostly it depends on knowing both the theoretical form of it and the practical form. So without the practical, you won't be able to understand it properly. You'll be studying it, trying to know where structures are, what structures are, but the best way is through videos and through pictures, as I said. The references for anatomy, there's a bunch of them, and each one, I would say, depends on you as a person, so it depends on what you like to read. There's Snell's Clinical Anatomy. Snell's is a lot less picturey, so I would not recommend it if you're more of a visual learner, or I would not recommend it without pairing it with another visual resource. But I like its work in thorax, so in semester 2 specifically, it's really good. There's also Gray's Anatomy. Gray's Anatomy has a lot of pictures, so it's perfect if you're more of a visual learner. However, I find the English a bit too much, so like it describes things and it uses a really long way to describe things. There's also Moore's Clinical Anatomy, and I personally think there's not that much of a difference between Gray's and Moore. It's a matter of personal preference. I would recommend during semester 2 you don't rush buying your references. Download each of them online on your laptop. Check them out a bit. Try to see which ones you like more before you commit to buying a reference. There's also some shorter books or notes, and like Samih Dos, they're Egyptian books for anatomy, and there's also BRS Anatomy. These two I would not recommend at all unless you don't have time. So as long as you're watching this video in the beginning of your semester, you do not need those. These are more about when you have 3 days left for the exam and you really need to cram a subject. Those are your people for cramming, but they're not a good resource or a tool in the beginning of your semester, and they don't really describe things the best way. So I would not recommend them unless you really don't have the time. There's also atlases, and for me, atlases are the best thing to go with from the beginning. I personally use Gray's Atlas of Anatomy. I know a lot of people who use Netter's Atlas of Anatomy. They're both very beautiful, and they help you visualize. Their pictures are just so pretty, so easy to memorize. And then, obviously, the favorite place to go to with anatomy is YouTube. there are a few YouTube channels that are seen here. There's Anatomy Zone, which is my personal favorite. There's the noted anatomists, Ackland and Dr. Ahmed Kamal, if you prefer Arabic. He's Egyptian, so he explains in Arabic. For me personally, Anatomy Zone is just a 3D model, so it's not theoretical. They just show you a 3D model of whatever it is you're studying. There's also Teach Me Anatomy. It's an application. You download the app, and it has literally so much anatomy, and it's so easy to access, and it's so summarized. It's one of my favorite things. I like to check out Teach Me Anatomy before lectures and whenever I'm trying to review a topic on the go. So I'd study it on the bus or like really quickly before I go to sleep. It's really helpful, and I definitely recommend downloading Teach Me Anatomy. So what are my recommendations for what to do with anatomy? You basically focus on lectures and take notes. That's the first step, to focus on the lectures. And then after that, you either check out the notes of your own lecture with an atlas, or watch a video, or check out Teach Me Anatomy, the app, before your tutorial and your DR. So in anatomy, after every lecture, there's another day in the week where you have a tutorial and the dissection room. And these two are really helpful when it comes to sticking the information. However, going into them without knowledge makes you very lost. So make sure no matter what happens, that one day before the DR, you've actually revised the topic. That is it. That was my study schedule for anatomy, is that I study one day before DR, and that's it. When you go to the DR, you'll take notes on any additional information they added that you didn't already have, and that is pretty much it. Then all you have to do is revisit the topic again when you have an exam, or when the exams are close by, or when you think this topic is a bit more difficult for you. But that's pretty much it. So you focus on the lecture, you study before the DR, and then you try to add any extra info during the DR sessions or during the tutorials, and then afterwards you revise them for exams. I have my lecture notes. They're available on my Telegram channel if you guys want it. I'll put the link in the description. And that is pretty much it when it comes to anatomy. But again, you gotta use a visual aspect, so either an application, an atlas, or a video to help you really get the information down. With anatomy, the more you revise or you redo the topic, the easier it gets. So if you have a trouble with it, the best thing to do is to keep revising it over and over again every once in a while. It really makes it easier, and remember that the information you're going to be learning in semester 2 is going to be throughout semester 2, 3, and 4. So you could get questions of it all the way in semester 4. So I would not recommend rushing your way through it. Try to give it your time. Next is embryology. As I said, embryology is a part of anatomy exam. So it's a different subject, but it's part of it. And there's this one book for it, which is Langman's Medical Embryology. But I would not recommend it. It's too big. It takes a lot of time to study it. It's very confusing sometimes. So either follow a doctor's outline. So if your doctor's giving you good sheets, use those. Or you can use notes that were made by me and some of my batchmates, and they're available on my Telegram channel. Embryology is not that easy, but it's also not that difficult. And it's very easy marks when it comes to the exam. So the anatomy exam has like 15 questions that are embryology. And if you have the embryology, like you actually put in the time in it, you're going to go and get those 15 marks. They're very easy marks. So I would recommend, if you're trying to get a really high grade, like an A or an A+, to do the embryology and the histology parts, because they are very easy marks. So next is our histology. Now histology, I would recommend also using an atlas more than a book, because it's more of a picture-based subject, and you basically understand the structures, and then you try to imagine them. You'll have histology labs as well, and during the histology labs, you'll be looking at a microscopic slides of the structures. Unless you know the basic idea of what the structure is, seeing it under the microscope is going to look like nonsense. So you gotta review the topic before, make sure you understand what you're supposed to see, then look. Okay? There's a few books for it. There's this Atlas of Histology. There's these two other atlases of histology. Just make sure to choose whichever one works for you best. This is personally my favorite, but most doctors recommend Janqueras. It's their favorite. So either of them is good. Whichever one of them you want to use is good, as long as you're looking at the pictures before you look at the microscope. And that is pretty much it for histology. So that's for anatomy. We'll go next to physiology. Physiology during semester 2 is easier than semester 3 and 4. So you don't have to put too much effort in it. You just have to understand basic concepts, know all of the normal values. So if at any time they give you a value or a range that you're supposed to memorize, make sure you memorize these, because they are going to be coming up a lot in the future. And then regulation and mechanisms. So whenever there's anything, they will be telling you how to regulate something or how a mechanism for something works. That's where the questions in physiology are mostly about. Because physiology is more of a functional topic, not a structural subject like anatomy. So they always worry about regulation, mechanisms, how the things work, and not what they are. For physiology, there's a bunch of references as well. There's Guyton and Hall, but Guyton and Hall is a really big book, so I would not recommend touching it unless you have an assignment. So it's for assignments. It's really good whenever you want to write a paper or something like that. But if you're trying to study for an exam, not a good idea. There's Gannong's Review of Medical Physiology. It's really good. It's really lovely, but I would not recommend going to it as a first resource. Only go for it when you're trying to broaden your information about a subject. There's Linda Costanzo. It's personally my favorite. However, I didn't think it was that great for semester 2 topics. It was better for semester 3 and 4 topics. There's shorter books like BRS Physiology. Not a huge fan. It's a good book, but also is never enough. You need to always pair it up with a second resource. There's Core of Medical Physiology. It's the number one book that's being used in Sudan right now. It's a Sudanese book, so the English is very easy to understand, especially if you are struggling with your English. But again, it's not an understanding book. It's a memorizing book. It'll help you memorize, but the understanding itself is a bit difficult. So the best thing to do is to mix it with YouTube. So YouTube, there's a bunch of channels on YouTube that are really great. There is Armando. This is my favorite. It's a lovely YouTube channel. I would recommend you check it out. There's Ninja Nerd Science, and there's also Najib Lectures, but Najib Lectures take a lot of time. So depending on your time, choose one of them, try it out, and then you pair it with Core Physiology, and it's really good. So my recommendation is you can use Core for semester 2. It's not a big deal. It's good for semester 2, but you have to start really early. So you need to start from the beginning of the semester and pair it with a good understanding tool, whether it be like a lecture. If the doctor in the lecture is really good at explaining, that's good for you. If someone else is explaining to you, or if you're using a YouTube channel. And then you would need to give it at least 2 days a week to study. So just 2 days a week of the week, you go through physiology real quick. You don't need to spend too much time on it. If you're just watching a YouTube video or flipping through Core, that's more than enough. If you feel like in any topic you want to learn more, go to the other references, the larger references that are recommended, and that's pretty much it for physiology. On to biochemistry. So with biochemistry, we've got a bit more difficult. Biochemistry for semester 2 is not that difficult. It's very easy. However, when it comes to semester 3 and 4, it's really difficult. So with semester 2, all you have to do is build the blocks so that when you're in semester 3, you don't have to go back and revise semester 2 topics. It's not much. There's not much to say about it. But one of the things you need to know specifically for semester 2 is enzymes and vitamins. These are 2 topics that you guys are going to be covering in biochemistry in semester 2, and they're very big when it comes to their impact on semester 3 and 4. So don't focus too much on memorizing every single pathway or every single thing they show you, but try to know these 2 are really regularity steps and inhibitors aren't that relevant for your semester 2. They're more irrelevant for semester 3. But basically, try not to memorize everything. Try to understand and memorize as a mixture. And when it comes to vitamins and enzymes, that's where you need to put all of your effort. There's also 2 big references for biochemistry. There's Harper's and there's Lippincott's. Harper's is really great if you love reading. It's beautiful. It explains it in so much detail. However, it's sometimes a little too detailed. There's Lippincott's. I personally love Lippincott's because it has pictures and graphs and mind maps, and it helps you connect the concepts really well. So if you guys are looking for a book to actually buy, this one is your guy. So my recommendation is to go for YouTube. There's Ninja Nerd Science, but I don't think they have that many of your semester 2 topics as much as I would like. And you give once a week for biochemistry, and you try to engage in tutorials as much as possible. But that is throughout the semester. However, once you guys start getting taught the chapters of enzymes and vitamins, that's when you need to be giving biochemistry more of your time. So the second they start giving you enzymes or vitamins, you need to be giving it more time than you used to. So beginning of the semester, biochemistry is really chill. Towards the ending of the semester, biochemistry needs a lot more energy and time. Okay, next is past papers. A lot of people ask me about past papers and whether they should start solving them early and so on. They are really helpful when it comes to helping you imagine how the exams are going to be like, especially because in semester 2, you're new to the whole medical subjects. Their exams are a little different than semester 1. So you could use past papers to help you test your knowledge throughout the year. However, do not memorize them. It's a waste of time to memorize them. They're not usually that common to show up the same questions on the exams. There's this book called Black Book Past Papers. It's from Jamaat al-Nilain. Black Book is really good. However, it is extremely difficult. It's much more difficult than our university examinations. So if you can solve it, that is great. Like if you can use it throughout the year to try and solve questions from Black Book to spot where your weaknesses are, that is amazing. However, don't be discouraged if you find it too difficult. That is normal. It is difficult. There's also our university's past papers. You guys can find them on the Dropbox. We'll send you guys the Dropbox link if you need it. And that is pretty much it for the past papers. Do I study every day? That's just a random thing I want to add, because a lot of people think that you need to be studying every single day to be doing well in medicine, and that's not true. I try to stay as consistent as possible and to at least review topics lightly throughout the year. So I make sure to go through what I learned on the same week I learned it. However, I might only spend 30 minutes on it, or maximum an hour on it. I don't spend that much time per topic. For semester 2 specifically, I put most of my time on anatomy because that was the most difficult for me, and that is where I recommend you put most of your energy for semester 2. I study about 4 to 5 days a week. I take the weekends off every single week, so Thursdays and Fridays are my days off. I don't study on them. And yeah, as I said, I give anatomy most of my time. For physiology and biochemistry, I wasn't giving it that much time until it was close to exams, and that basically worked for me really well. So, sorry. When it comes to like semester 2, if you guys want just final thing advice is don't worry about it too much. It is a place for you to make mistakes and to learn from them, and it's not going to be the end of the world. You might feel under a lot of pressure, but try your best to have fun and find the beauty in the whole medicine thing. For exams specifically, there's labs for each exam. Lab exams are usually way more easier than paper exams, and they're about 20% of the final mark. So these are very good places for you to gain marks, so do not neglect labs. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be needing to cram everything 1 week before the exams. That is horrible. It'll put you under so much stress for no reason. Don't get discouraged by your mids marks, because semester 2 mids it's not difficult, it's just that it's a bit unexpected, and it does get better from then. If you guys need any help with any specific topics, anything that you guys want me to explain or want me to talk more about, all you gotta do is just text me on my Instagram account. I will put the link again in the description, so you guys can DM me any questions you guys have. If anyone wants me to elaborate anything here, just text me. I'll be more than glad to help. Hopefully, I'll be making this series a lot more often, where I give you guys information about your life in UMST. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad to have finally done this, because I've been wanting to for such a long time. And yeah, make sure you share this to everyone else in your batch, and thank you.